I'm gonna be honest, guys. I never thought I'd be coming to you, cap in hand, a reformed man, a changed man. If you've been here long enough, you know that for quite a long time, I have held a hatred in my heart that it's time for me to let go of. Snax, I can say with confidence, after the first day at Blast Rivals Fort Worth, Texas, that your time on G2 no longer counts. Snax, you are back. You are a real in-game leader, a true in-game leader, and I would humbly and graciously accept you coming to save FaZe Clan. It's time for us to put these bygones behind us, Snax. I will bury the hatchet only if you can save my beloved FaZe Clan and bring PR and Rez with you. Anyways, you may be wondering why I'm having this born-again Snax Enjoyer moment, and that's because today they knocked off Furia, one of the very best teams in the world, in a very close best-of-3 set. Before that, we had an amazing matchup between Vitality and Foot, despite Foot having to play with a stand-in, Vitality's legendary Dust 2 streak coming to a temporary end. G2 made short work of Astralis in a very one-sided series, and then NAVI took on the temporary new look Faze with Twist at the helm, Nate-U in the server, and finally NKJ taking over as the new coach. And unfortunately, NAVI blitzed them straight out 2-0 as well. It's already well past 10 o'clock at night. Games are ending late in the afternoon for me, as it is in Texas. I'm very tired. Let's go ahead and get things done so I can hop in bed. If you guys enjoy this recap, you can show me by leaving a like, leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Help me hit 20k subs by the end of the year. If you're on mobile, make sure you hype the videos. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm and helps push these videos to a broader audience. Make sure you follow me on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ. I stream every single day at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by skins.com, one of the easiest ways to buy and sell skins in the world. They have a huge inventory, easy to navigate filters to find exactly what drip you're looking for, and once you're ready, it's as easy as clicking buy using any of their multiple payment options like crypto, Apple Pay, Google Pay, credit card, and others, and boom, you've got the new swag. But that's not all. Skins.com is one of the best ways to cash out your inventory through its instant sell system. Unlike other competitors, Skins.com takes 0% in fees and offers better prices for your items than anywhere else. Plus, they're working on a peer-to-peer trading system that will let you trade directly with other users in the near future. Check out Skins.com in the link in the description down below or the pinned comment. Get you 4 M9 Fades, 9 Dragon Lores, and 1 P250 Sand Dune, and let them know I sent you their way. Thank you once again to Skins.com for sponsoring this video. Okay, so first things first, going into Vitality versus Foot, I was expecting things to be a very one-sided affair, and that's really what we got on Mirage, where Vitality blew out Foot 13-6. Foot coming into this would have been a formidable test for Vitality on any given day, and frankly, a first game series after Vitality got such a massive win in Rio, they took a full week off to celebrate. This is the type of environment I would expect Foot, being such a scrappy and up-and-coming roster themselves, to actually potentially beat Vitality in a best-of-3 setting. But it was announced days before Fort Worth kicked off that Lounge would not be attending due to health issues, and in his place, their coach Coolio will be stepping in. Now, this just sucks, because playing down a man pretty much guaranteed that Foot would not be competitive in the series, at least so I thought. Now that we've watched this series play out though, it's very clear to me that if Lounge was here, that Foot would have won this series, because Vitality didn't just look like a little shaky, a little rusty, they flat out played bad Counter-Strike for the majority of the series after that Mirage game. Obviously, the big notable thing here is even with a stand-in, Foot snaps Vitality's Dust 2 streak, beating them 13-11, the first loss that Vitality has suffered on Dust 2 since Spirit beat them back in November of 2025. 17 straight times Vitality have won on Dust 2 since that Spirit loss, and the one time they slip up here in 2026 is a first day group stage game against Foot with a stand-in. And it wasn't like Foot had this ridiculous overperformance where one of their players just had like a truly life level game where they dropped like 30, 40 kills or something and they beat Vitality in overtime. No, they beat them on Dust 2 straight up 13-11, and look at this scoreboard. This scoreboard is something straight out of like 2019 Vitality with Zyro when he was still playing with like Masuda and RPK, and Zyro was just out here having to drop 30 burgers just to keep them relevant. Look at this scoreboard. Every single Vitality player other than Zyro was bad. Okay, hold on. I'm going to interrupt myself here. There's a brief editor's note kind of tech pause here. So I am the community broadcaster for the organization I work with, Wanted Goons. I cast all of our ESEA matches, and I was messing with a new HUD for casting the games every week, and apparently while I was recording all of this Dust 2 gameplay, I forgot to turn the HUD off. So yes, this looks very weird, but this is all the footage I got. I'm not going to re-record it at this point in the night. Let me ask you this, leave me in the comments. Would you like to see the demo footage with this HUD UI? Because it looks better than just the default demos for sure. It's a little jarring, I think, compared to what the HUDs are for the tournaments. But if you guys like this, I have access to this HUD. I'm allowed to use it. Would you like to see demos recorded with this going forward? Let me know. Mezzy, 10 and 16, 0.81. Rops, 13 and 15, 0.83. Apex and Flamesy going 15 and 13 respectively. And then Zywo, 30 and 11 with a 1.78 rating. And structurally, there's just not much to say about these rounds. It's Foot just finding every little bit of advantage they can to try and eke out these round wins and just avoid Zywo as the raid boss. It's honestly kind of an ugly game to watch back. Shout out to Coolio especially, who while his score doesn't really jump off the page, had a couple of impactful individual kills late down the stretch on the T side, especially on like some of their mid to B sets. That's really cool. It's bizarre to see Vitality kind of beat themselves. Apex really lighting up the comms, so visibly frustrated in a way that really only he can get. And normally that's the type of thing that can fire up Vitality and get them to make some of these comebacks. But here they just kind of shied away from the ability to win this game. But here's the thing, right? You lose on Dust 2, it is what it is. The streak, who the fuck cares? The series is still ongoing. Nuke is another map that Vitality are fantastic on. And this felt like a true Vitality bounce back on the first half, where they went back in between maps. Apex, I'm assuming, lit everybody up and tore them a new asshole, and then they walk out and they rip that asshole into Foot into an 11-1 CT half. Foot unable to do any goddamn thing they wanted. And flat out, this should have just been a like 13-2, 13-3 match. Vitality, you lose a Dust 2 streak, no big deal, you took care of the series afterwards. But instead, Vitality put together a frankly terrible second half T-side, and Foot take full advantage of that. Like, I cannot understate how weird it is to watch this Vitality lose 8 straight T-side rounds on Nuke. This is one of the best T-side Nuke teams in the world, and they were just unable to really motion anything. Meanwhile, it's Apex as the leading fragger, which feels even worse. Zyro is doing just as well behind him, but he's missing shots, he's leaving some openings on the table, but Flamesy, Mezzy, and Romps just aren't rising to the occasion. Just watching Romps and Mezzy, two of truly the best players on Nuke in the world, walk away with 10 and 12 kills respectively, barely getting anything done on the second half T-side. It was just abysmal Counter-Strike to watch play out. And the only reason this wasn't a Foot upset of the century is that after losing those first 8 straight rounds on a classic Vitality force buy, they managed to break out into the lower bomb site, and Mezzy gets a forward position with the Tech 9 up ramp and gets a miracle double kill in the 3v3 retake situation. Just Vitality brute forcing an eco round that only they can win. Just a true bullshit round win that Vitality have specialized as one of the best aspects of them as a roster. Now, in point of fact of how rough they were, they immediately re-buy up, get all the weapons online, go into a fast A hit, and get fucking mulched by Foot. So the full buys just flat out aren't working. So from an 11-1 first half, Vitality barely escaped with victory. This is one of their sloppiest wins they've ever had with this lineup. And yeah, listen, let's just kind of call a spade a spade. Obviously, they took a huge amount of time off after the Rio win. They're celebrating this big historic milestone for the roster. It's the first day of the event. Vitality are for sure the favorites still. But tomorrow, they're going to have to play G2 for the advancement game for the quarterfinals or semis. And G2 looked really hot against Astralis. If Astralis play like they did today, they will not win that match. Just straight up. This standard of Counter-Strike from Vitality, compared to what their usual is unacceptable for the best team in the world and the best team of all time. So hopefully Vitality reconcile that, and we see Vitality like we should see tomorrow. Because I want G2 to have a stern test. I want G2 to rise above the odds. And if they beat Vitality, it's because Vitality weren't playing bad, but they beat them on equal terms. And speaking of G2, let's breeze right into G2 versus Astralis, because this is one of the first of 2 very one-sided series today. I actually expected this to be quite close. I think if you were to power rank both these teams this year, G2 and Astralis would be very close in average achievements at LAN so far. And honestly, when you compare like Sampayas really not being as good as like Faze has been, I think there's a lot of interplay between these two teams where it should be very close. Unfortunately, it seems like the Nerds move was a home run for G2 because they gave Astralis the beans, full belt to ass. Dust 2 was a just race to the bottom, 13-5. Overpass, slightly more competitive with a good second half out of Astralis, but still 13-9 in favor of G2. Oof, where do we start? Ryu, my guy, my friend, dude, I'm sorry, I want to give you a hug because 5-31 with a 0.43 rating over 2 maps of play is I believe what the kids would say, not ideal and not a fun time and very bad. And I can only imagine what's going through your head in that moment, imagining all of the HLTV forum comments about how Hooksy got 5 times your kills over 2 maps of play. Not the best look. And then poor Faze just had a terrible time on Dust 2. He made up for it with a good performance in Overpass, but Faze's just been so fantastic throughout this entire year for Astralis. It just sucks that these like high profile series he's starting to get into, he's slipping up a little bit. I don't really think that's necessarily his fault. I think it might just be an aberration and that Dust 2 is a map that just hasn't treated him very well. It's just unfortunate it's happened a few times in a row. And I think it's going to hold back the ceiling for Astralis. Because when Faze, Ryu, Stare, and Yabi are on their game, this team's fucking dangerous. But if Ryu's going to get less than 5 kills over 2 maps, and Faze's not going to have a great game on the op, that's just going to be too much to overcome. And then for G2, this was an all hands on deck. Every single person contributed to winning performance. Hunter, back after breaking his foot or whatever happened, back in the server after missing out on, okay, I put a cut there. My brain broke for a solid 15 seconds trying to remember IEM Rio was the previous tournament. That gives you an idea of where I'm at tonight. Anyways, since IEM Rio, Sampayas was a stand-in IGL for that event. The Hunter, he's back, looking good individually. The synergy with Nerds is looking awesome. Sampayas himself had a great series, so did Heavy God. This was G2 cooking on all cylinders, and like I alluded to earlier, I just want to see them continue to cook, have a great series against Astralis tomorrow. If they beat Astralis, I would be the happiest man around because I like all of these players. And then transition over to things I do not like, let's talk about Faze versus NAVI. Now, this was the quote-unquote debut of our new look at Faze Clan post Kerrigan. And I say quotes around that because, I don't know, people wanted me to talk about this roster and, Twist to IGL, Nate you to stand in, NKJ to coach. The problem is, I think everybody understands that this is temporary. This is just to get through to the end of season and for Faze to fulfill their obligations to the tournaments they already agreed to attend. I don't think Nate U is going to be the long-term piece that comes into Faze. I don't think Twist is going to be the long-term IGL. And then, of course, we know that every other piece on this team is pretty ambiguous. If Frozen has any sense about his career trajectory, he's certainly exploring his options. So it's just very hard for me to care or be invested in or really want to analyze a Faze team that's going to change in 2 months' time. The Faze team themselves seem to know that this is temporary. So I'm not shocked, I'm not appalled, I'm not surprised when they get their back blown up by NAVI, because NAVI are the second best team in the world right now. They're a real contending roster, and Faze are a group of dudes just getting the job done. Now, given that, this Anubis game was still a fucking embarrassment to watch, as it felt like NAVI were just getting essentially warm-up rounds on their T side, and there was nothing Faze could do to stop it. Twist had a horrible opener, and so did Brokey and Frozen. Nate U and Jacob held up their end of the bargain, and I thought that Nate U actually looked pretty good throughout this series. We move over to Ancient, which is once again just basically the stomping grounds for somebody like Makaze. He drops 26 and 17, a 1.72 rating. But Twist and Frozen and Brokey, they kind of come alive individually. Twist has himself a good map. He hasn't really decayed much now, taking up the IGL duties. But I don't know, man. It's not like Faze were ever a threat to win this game. It's not like they're a threat to do anything in this tournament. So it's like, I don't know, why bother? Basically, I think people were expecting me to be mad or to yell about Faze in today's videos, but it's like, how should I care? Or why should I care? This is a team that is just very much in flux right now, so it's hard for me to be invested in what happens next. And then, it's been what you've been waiting for the entire video. The upset of the century, the dawn of the new era, the rise of Snax's GOAT IGL case, as Gamer Legion triumphantly blitz past Furia in 3-game fashion. Now this was a weird series. First off, Inferno was an absolute ass slapping from Furia, 13-5. Molodoi literally blitzed Gamer Legion down every single round he could have, but from those supreme heights, 23-7 with 1.89 rating, Molodoi was frankly pedestrian, bordering on awful for the rest of the series. On Nuke, bottom frags 9-15. On Mirage, it's second from the bottom, 10-15. Like, the oscillation with Molodoi is really his worst problem this year so far. I was working on a video, I just didn't get it done in time, about how Molodoi is like the key to success for Furia and how his performance dip from 2025 to 2026 has been the most notable among them. So I'll just transplant some of my thoughts from there to here. It's not that Molodoi's numbers have dipped very noticeably, it's just like the intangibles, the clutching's gone down, the peak playoff performance against top 5, top 10 opponents has gone down. His just ability to be constantly effective has gotten worse. I don't think it's that Molodoi himself has regressed, I simply think he's going through a bit of a sophomore slump. And whether that's because teams are over-prepping him or he's making individual mistakes, it kind of feels like a 50-50 amount. Because he's still playing like Molodoi did in 2025, he's just not getting the same effectiveness out of it. And when you combine that with Yuri's individual regression as well, suddenly Furia went from one of the teams with the best spread of firepower in the world, really only beaten by Vitality, to now a very beatable roster, to when players like PR, Hypex, Towson, and Rez lock in, suddenly Gamer Legion can hang. And when you go into a map like Nuke, the golden light that was holding them together so far this year was Zerotwocs. It felt like Zerotwocs couldn't turn in a bad map if he tried. We pull up here to Nuke though, he has one of his worst maps of the year, 6-15, a 0.55 rating. And once that piece is off the board, suddenly they are just so easy to roll past. Rez and Hypex having great maps, the rotations from Snax looked very, very smart. The way they didn't allow Furia to take outside control and hold it for meaningful amounts of time. Like, this is one of those games where Gamer Legion man-to-man outplayed Furia in its entirety, and that's why we go from this Inferno loss 13-5 to a Gamer Legion win 13-5. Then we move on to Mirage, much more neutral ground to end the series. And we start to see that while Snax, I think, is actually calling a pretty competent game so far, it's still clear that he is not some tactical mastermind, all jokes aside. A lot of the times Gamer Legion were trying to live or die by these mid defaults and controlling mid. Unfortunately, there was just a good response from Furia with Zerotwocs and Yakindar really bouncing back to deny that access. And when the mid default wasn't working, there was not very many attempts at like A executes out of spawn or late A hits, a lot of reliance on B executes that couldn't really follow up. So outside of Gamer Legion winning the pistol round and converting the early economic momentum, they only win 2 full buy rounds for the rest of the half. So it's 7-5, now all Furia have to do is put up a competent T-side to close out the series. And what do you know, once again, Furia's own T-sides on Mirage let them down. The calling from Fallen was flat, the impact from Molodoi was just non-existent. And then, kind of worst of all, Yakindar, who is this linchpin with his opening effectiveness in mid, goes 1-4 in opening duels. So the majority of rounds here in the second half, Furia are playing from a man disadvantage. It was pretty much everything that could go wrong went wrong. Meanwhile, for Gamer Legion, their CT side, every player other than Rez puts up 10 kills exactly. Snax 10, PR 10, Hypex 10, Towson 10. That kind of CT side spread of impact is unholy. Snax had some great rotates himself, some good timely multi-kills. It was nice to see him just kind of rat around the edges of smokes, something he's always been good at for his entire career. And yeah, I don't know, I was doing a community broadcast for Wanna Goons at the time this series ended, and you know, everyone came into my chat, Snax Enjoyer leading the army, telling me that they spanked Furia on the last map, and I was like, they're over-exaggerating. But no, Gamer Legion were firmly the better team to close out this series. And listen, today, we are all Snax Enjoyers, every single one of us. And the only thing that sucks is that this entire win, this celebration of Gamer Legion is mired by the fact that the HLTV article just dropped, showing that they're a piece of shit company. Therefore, for now, and for the rest of the event, they are not Gamer Legion, they are Snax Legion, and we are all members of the Snax Legion. Anyways, I've been burning the midnight oil, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed this coverage, you can show me by leaving a like and a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Help me 20k subs by the end of the year. Thank you to skins.com for sponsoring this video. Go check them out. Try out their new peer-to-peer trading system. It'd be really helpful to me and let them know I sent you their way. Thank you to skins.com. Thank you to my channel members. We'll keep it short today. You guys know who you are. Become a channel member today for $5 a month to get name of the video just like this. Well, as a customer on the community Discord. Follow me on JesseTiv/CS2. Bye.